What is one of the most important predictors of weight regain after weight loss? Hi, I'm Dr. Greg Ellis, and I want to explore this subject in more detail so you understand why people are at risk for regaining the weight they've lost. Now, during the last 50 years, the most popular weight loss method was to go low fat and reduce calories, and that's what people have done. Particularly important in women as well, because they're very often the ones who are pursuing the weight loss programs. Now, this is true of all the commercial weight loss programs, the Nutrisystems, the Weight Watchers, all the books on the supermarket shelves, all the plans that are out there that are all low fat, because everybody believes that fat is dangerous for you and fat leads to weight regain. This is the strongest predictor to regain the weight if you can't burn the fat that you're eating or that is on your body. Burn, scientific term is oxidize it. Now, I want to read something. This is written by one of the greatest researchers in all of biochemistry who solved the problems relating carbohydrate, the relationship between carbohydrate and fat, and how the body dealt with those two issues simultaneously. He writes, the concept that a lower than normal capacity to burn fat might be a predictor of insulin resistance receives support from both human and animal studies. For example, Astrup et al. Showed that obese women who achieved a normal body weight by caloric restriction did not increase lipid or fat oxidation burning appropriately in response to a fat meal when compared with women who had never been obese. Another researcher showed the same thing, and he points that out. Now, what's going on? Well, there are a set of enzymes that process fat and ketone bodies. There's another set of enzymes that process carbohydrates. So if you go on a low-fat diet, naturally that's going to be a high-carbohydrate diet. So you're going to be stimulating the enzymes that process carbohydrates, the ones that oxidize them. Now, enzymes have a maximal rate of activity and a minimal rate of activity. And they also can increase in quantity. So both the quantity and the rate of activity can reach optimal levels depending on the type of diet you're on. So, and we call this the antecedent diet. So if the diet you have been on has been one low in fat, high in carbohydrate, you're going to maximize the quantity of and rates of activity of all the enzymes that process carbohydrates, that burn them as fuel, that store them as body fat. That's called a lipogenic enzyme. And you will not be able to effectively burn the fat that you're exposed to, whether you eat it or whether it comes off your body. So you go on this diet, and in contrast to Gary Taubes, I just read that there, people who actually attained a normal body weight through caloric restriction on a low-fat diet. But the risk of regaining is very, very high. And that's important to understand. It's important you know this. So now, how do you avoid this problem? You get very, very hungry on a low-fat diet because you're storing most of your carbohydrates as fat. Obviously, if you lost weight, in the face of the fact that you're still storing carbohydrates as fat, there must be something to the calories in, calories out, which is what I've been arguing all along, in contrast to many others. They actually lost the weight while eating a high carbohydrate diet. Now, they're going to be at risk for regaining that weight. The reason is because this. When they go back and they start eating normally again, even if they continue eating low fat, it's going to be higher in carbohydrate. As their calories creep up, all the enzymes, the lipogenic enzymes that want to store that carbohydrate as fat, are just sitting there waiting for some glucose to come along so they can snag it up and store it in the fat cell. What happens then? Well, now there's no fuel in the blood to feed the active tissues. They send a feeding signal to the brain, and you, the animal, follow your biology, and you eat. And you feel it's okay because you're hungry. Well, I'm hungry, therefore I can eat. And you don't understand that you're getting fat in the face of starvation. They're both going on simultaneously. What you need to do is use a carbohydrate restricted diet. This will be higher in fat and lower in carbohydrate. And now you will induce the enzymes involved in the burning of fat for fuel. And you won't be involving the enzymes that store fat as fuel, because that's going on typically in the face of carbohydrate exposure. So the way to beat this game, and of course Dr. McGarry talks about the fact that people can't oxidize the fat, but he talks about the drugs we need to make to help people oxidize the fat. Well, we've got the power, more power than the drugs, right now in our own hands by using a carbohydrate-restricted diet. So by doing that, we can restrict the carbs, we can lower our calories if we have to, and we can induce the enzymes that process fat or oxidize it or burn it. Now you're not going to be hungry, and that's going to minimize the risk of regaining the weight you lost. It's the only way you can win this game. You can't win it any other way. So the way to lose weight is to go on a carbohydrate-restricted diet and cut your calories if you have to. You will at some point to reach your goal weight. And that will serve. But this low-fat diet thing cannot work. There's not a chance. Because you will be hungry and you will re-eat and you will regain the weight. We all know that's what happens. So your best chance of success is with a carbohydrate-restricted diet. That's how this whole thing works. It's a function of stimulating your own biochemistry, knowing how your body works, and setting things up so it works the way nature intended. That's how we win at this game. Okay, I'm Dr. Greg Ellis.